usually in our other room. And it's Tuesday, not a Monday, so it feels all weird, all sorts of wonky today. But we'll get started 7:04 and we'll do roll call.
President Valerie Reinballer.
Here.
Councilmember Shirley Blair Fuller.
Here.
Councilmember Brooke Burchett Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Deb Cassini Klein. Here. Councilmember Andrea DeTillo. Here. Mayor Paul Gamrat.
Sure.
And we're all here, and then we will do our public comment section. If you are a resident or taxpayer, please unmute yourself. Raise your hand and we can unmute you. But we'll start with the room first. Anybody in the room that would like to comment? No? All right, we'll move to online. If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Michelle will move you. You'll be able to speak and you have 3 minutes. And state your name and your address. And just so everybody knows, we do have 7 people online right now. Going once. Going twice. And, all right, close public comment. Okay, that was weird. All right, and we'll move on to our action items.
Madam President, motion to adopt resolution 4607, appointing Matt Castiglia to fill the vacancy created by the resignation of former council member James Warren.
Second.
Discussion, I know there's discussion. And anybody can go first.
As far as this process is concerned, I feel like there was a public process where the community was able to choose who they wanted to fill the seat. Matt Castiglia was on the ballot at that particular time and was not reelected. And so I feel that it's unfair to go over what the community's voice stated that they wanted. We have a democracy for a reason, and I feel like every vote counts. And so for us to be considering appointing that, I feel like goes against the democratic process.
And can I comment on that?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I understand what you're saying. However, anybody has a right to apply for a position that is open. Even if you were on council before or you didn't get reelected, as Matt pointed out, very efficiently, he only lost by 11 votes. And I know every vote matters, but the fact of the matter is, I think our democratic process is great. And he has every right to reapply. And also, I heard from people, I know Matt heard from people, they were encouraging him to go to run again. Even Kathy Bordner made a 3-minute speech about it. So we're not doing anything certainly illegal, and he has every right, just like anybody else. We used our social media, we mentioned it many times in our meetings. Anybody could apply. We could have had 100 people. We had 5 people apply. And again, I go back to what you said. Matt has every right, just like any other individual in our town, to reapply to be on council. That's how I feel.
Thank you.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
So, my statement about not being considered for appointment is not to suggest that he does not have the right. However, we take an oath. And every person here who is sitting at this table was voted into this role to serve the community and to be the voice, or to respond and listen to the voice of the community. And so whether it was only 11 votes that we lost by, he was not reelected. And the community could have made the choice to reelect him and they did not. And so again, I feel like out of the 5 candidates that applied for the appointment, there are other options that we can invite to sit at this table to provide a new voice, a new direction for council. There have been two people that I know of that have suggested that Matt be reappointed, but there were hundreds of people who voted for another option.
Hundreds, where do you come up with hundreds? What do you mean?
In November of 2023,
Mm-hmm.
during the general election, there were how many people that turned out? Hundreds of people that turned out.
Mm-hmm.
And when they went into that ballot box to select who they wanted to serve in a particular role,
Mhm.
Matt didn't make the cut.
Yeah, but he only didn't make the cut by 11 votes. It was 1% of people who voted. And honestly, I don't think it matters how much it is. Anybody has the right to apply for the seat of council if there's a council seat. There's nothing that says, oh, well, you've already been on council, you can't do it again. Let's say if Kevin Collins wanted to do it again, he has every right to do it. Just because Matt wasn't voted in, he has every right to do it. I mean,
I'm not saying he doesn't have a right to be considered. That's
I wanna
not
give the
what my
space
point
for-
of it.
I don't want it to be like a back and forth and
Okay,
you're
you're
doing this and
You're
you're that. I would like to give space for other folks on the table to be part of this discussion as well.
The reason I had a hard second for Matt is because when I first came on council, brand new, appointed, didn't know anything what I'm doing, to be honest with you. I'm not saying on television, I do everything I can, hopefully to serve the borough extremely well. Matt was so helpful, and the entire time that I served with him, he was so helpful and engaged, and did his job so incredibly well. It has nothing to do with loyalties to Matt or anything that as elected, I have to pick the right person for the right position. And that is why that was a hard second for me.
Thank you for sharing that. And then,
My concern with Matt is that, I had asked him during this process that he will have to come up for reelection during the special election. And if chosen, would he run in the special election? And he stated yes. And so with that, I would hope that he would keep to that and do it vigorously.
Yeah.
Not just say it to get appointed for this time. And then when it comes time for the general election,
Then we're back in the same.
we're back in the same position, and I must say that, even though I won by, 900 and some, number one on top, I did say that, didn't I? That, my concern truly was that during the election, there was no effort, no going out, no seeing you out or anything, seeing that out, running for office for whatever reasons. And so I would hope that that would not be, and you're taking Lucy Jay Dorrance, so it would be for 4 years, okay, for the following,
special election.
until the special election. And that date is, and we get that date of the special election.
So when you say special election, I think it's.
Well, let's make it clear for the audience.
Yeah, I think you want to be as accurate as possible. So
Yeah.
both of these vacancies are going to serve until the end of December of 2025.
Okay,
Okay, the vacancy for Jay, this first appointment will be the election will be to go for a new 4-year, I'm sorry, a 2-year.
2 years.
To finish out, because he's only just in. The second appointment for Diane Law will be same term, January till December 25, but when that person reruns that seat, that's gonna be for a 4-year term.
For the 4 years.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. So then that's basically my concern, is to see that he definitely would put his best foot forward. To come out to make an effort to stay part of council, to continue to be a part of this council. So that's my only back push with that, so.
Thank you. Question, solicitor, and I forgot to ask you earlier, is this a roll call vote?
Yes.
That's what I thought. Okay, just making sure. I'll say some words about Matt. I've worked very closely with Matt since 2020 on council. Him and I don't always agree on everything. And a lot of people in here know that, and we have had back and forths, plenty of back and forths. But at the end of the day, he has been nothing but professional and cordial. And sometimes you just agree to disagree. However, it's good to have different points of view on council, and I think that's something positive. Matt brings a lot to the table. I've seen him firsthand work on council, and all of the work that he puts into our community. I will say I received probably about 10 emails this weekend or so, supporting Matt and wanting him to be on council, and I want to ensure that I'm hearing the voices of our community. So I want to say thank you for applying to all of you all and putting your best foot forward and wanting what's best for this community. Any other discussions before we do roll call vote? All right.
Councilmember Brokershaw Williams,
No.
Councilmember Deb Casey Klein,
Yes.
Councilmember Shirley Blair Fuller,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrea Datillo,
Yes.
and President Valerie Reinfelder.
Yes. Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 4608. Appointing, and I hope I say this correctly. Greg Bogdanovich. Did I say that? That's not your beautiful name. To fill the vacancy created by the resignation of former council member Diane Wall.
Second,
Any discussion?
so as somebody who came into the community by volunteering and stepping up and doing the things beforehand, that is what is so appealing to you, because you don't have to do it. You just chose to do it. And being on ad hoc steer committee, that is, I wouldn't want to do it, you know, so thank you. So that being said, that type of dedication and your time that you have available to do it really leads me to believe that you're the right person to do it.
Thank you.
Greg, I appreciated your outspokenness, particularly your commitment to your community. And the fact that you've already been working, you've got your hand already in the plow, particularly in the Dare Committee. And that kind of sort of moved me as well, because that is a committee that, you know, that's well needed in Churchill. I say call them all and send them, you know, or round them all up and send them to someone. You know, you can't call them, right? I would, you know, just in the ball, you ate my hospital when I moved in. So, you know, but the fact that you're well versed and, you know, and working already in the community and volunteering, I think you're a very good candidate person for this position as well.
Well, I'd like to say, I probably of all of us have worked the most with Greg, because I was on the ad hoc steer committee, which is not an easy committee to be on, because people, as you think Greg's nodding his head, but people are very passionate either way, and sometimes it's even hard to control them. And Greg has done, first of all, it's so easy to work with, and he has done a tremendous amount of work for that. A lot of months and months of research. He really stepped up. Diane Law was in charge of finding a panel that didn't agree this way or that way with what should we do with the deer. They were just there to get facts and do research and find out what is the best thing for Churchill to do. And Greg was just a dream to work with, and you can just tell what a hard worker you are, Greg. And I felt very fortunate to be working with you.
So what I would like to say is that, I look forward to having you on council, Greg. I like the fact that you represent the Ridgewood Manor, because Ridgewood is separated by Rhode Island Road, and kind of siloed, even though it's a part of Churchill. And so to have someone who can represent that, the needs and issues in that area and bring that more to the forefront, I think will be helpful to solidify Churchill as a whole. Hopefully you'll reach out to some of the people on Marywood Drive as well to include them, because it's important for all of the needs to be addressed and at the forefront. And we're a little heavy on this side of Churchill, so welcome.
And that leaves me for my last comment there. This is my first time interacting with Greg. When you first interviewed, I'd heard a lot of great things about you from the Deer Committee. To echo what Brooke said, and I 100% agree with, is you've already formed this kind of community where you are and residents come to you and you have that rapport that you built with them. I think that is so valuable and so important and such a good thing to bring to this council. Different set of eyes, excuse me. So I think you interviewed and answered the questions really well, and for that reason, I really enjoyed that part of Bridgewood that you brought in, so thank you. And we'll move it to vote.
Councilmember Brooke Rochette Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Deb Katie Klein,
Yes.
Councilmember Shirley Blair Fuller,
Yes.
Councilmember Andrea DeFilo,
I mean, yeah, yes.
and Ryan Paul.
Yes. Congratulations, Greg. I would like to say thank you to Susan. I don't want you to be discouraged by this in any way. There's so many opportunities to volunteer and to be part of this community. And we would welcome you with open arms to do so. Deb is part of our communications committee and she's also rec board. They have a lot of events. Please get involved. We always send out emails and ask for help. You spoke really, really well.
You did a great job.
You did a really, really good job.
Thank you.
So
I
I
really
say thank you.
appreciate the consideration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thanks. And I'm really glad that you have two great people. I'm glad you picked Matt. He's wonderful. And he did campaign all over our neighborhood. So, yeah. Congratulations.
Suzanne, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, and I'd like to say to you as well, like, I would like to get together with you and talk about other volunteer opportunities. And, I mean, the way I looked at it is I've already worked with Greg and I've already worked with Matt. If that wasn't the case, you would have been right up there with everybody else because I was, and I truly mean this, I really was very impressed with you and your background. And I don't even want to say it was an unfair advantage, but when you already work with two people and you know their work ethic and you enjoy working with them and they work hard, because, we need worker bees here. This is, this isn't an easy job, an easy volunteer job, but I was very, very impressed with you. I mean, I remember talking to Val about it. So, I mean, I would like to get together with you and see what other things we can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, really, yeah, please don't be discouraged, please.
Thank
We need you. Yeah, we need you.
Be careful what you wish.
The best is all.
All right, and we'll move on to our discussion items for the evening.
Yes.
Or are we gonna do swearing in first?
Yeah, why don't we do the swearing in? So, both, successful candidates need to, sign off on an affidavit of residency, confirm that they lived in the borough for at least 1 year. We do have, Ashley ready to notarize those on the spot, and we have,
Happening.
Judge Caulfield ready to, give the oath once this is completed. Now, of course, I think you then have to sit up and start doing work and immediately up on the day. It's going to be kind of so. Didn't have what plans today.
Yeah.
Always.
Thank you.
Well, good. Make it official.
All right.
You go.
Who else to be first?
Oh, can we? Do you want to remember who she is?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. I, Greg Perdonovich,
I, Greg Padonovich,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge
and that I will
the
discharge
duties of my office
the duties of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
Congratulations.
You know what you've gotten yourself into.
Either. Ready? Raise your right hand. I, Matt Siglia,
I, Matt Castillo,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support,
that I will support,
obey, and defend
obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and that I will discharge the duties
and that I will discharge the duties
of my office
of my office
with fidelity.
with fidelity.
You, both can now come to the table.
Right.
We have our new seats. Oh, we have seats available for people. So wherever there's an open seat. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you, Lisa. Have a good evening. Thank you. Go ahead, your husband. Yeah, everything. All right. Two people. The table is full again, which feels really exciting.
Does.
I'm really happy with, I can say comments, right? I know the interview process was a little different than we've done in the past. But I wanted it to be as transparent as possible and give everybody a chance to ask questions publicly. So I know it was a little bit longer, but I wanted to make sure we were thorough and that everybody in the public was aware of what we were doing and what questions were being asked. So we'll move on to our discussion items. Anybody have any questions of the draft meeting minutes from August 28th from your binder?
I would just say on page 1.
Yep.
Says, under introduction of persons interested in the vacant council seats.
Yeah.
That we were accepting letters until Friday, April 23rd, 2024. I believe it should be
August. It should be August.
Typo. Thank you for noticing that. Catching that. Anything else? Anybody have any questions about any of the staff agency reports?
I will note that we just added the property safety specialist report today. And the interpretive volunteer fire company report today as well.
Okay.
So if you look at your binders, they were updated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Management and government, there's nothing going on right now. Just to say that I will be looking at the committee structure now that we have 2 new council members. And we'll be having some conversations with people regarding the committee structure and whether what they're interested in, what they're not interested in. That's for new council members as well as former council members. We'll kind of look at everything holistically and go from there. So that might be some movements going around. Finance.
Yeah, we hope to at this time have a brief presentation of the 2025 budget, but after further discussion with the chair and Ashley and the team, we're hoping to do that at the regular meeting.
Exactly, yes. We just want to make sure we give these guys, and for what we credit, you know, to make sure we had enough time and we present it accurately. So,
Great. Thank you for considering that. Nothing for public safety, correct?
No.
Okay. Infrastructure. There's a lot.
Yes, so I can talk about the first point.
Yeah.
Believe in the short-term rental ordinance was adopted in 23.
Yes.
And at that time, it stated that there was a fee associated with applicants for the inspection that is to be done yearly.
Yearly.
However, that fee is not in our fee schedule. So we will have to establish the fee in the, fee resolution schedule.
Okay.
I think there's two fees, right? There's an application fee that is referenced in there that I don't think we ever adopted a fee for, and then also the
annual.
inspection.
There's an annual fee for the inspection.
So there'll be two, when we present the resolution next week, we'll present it with, you know, application fee X, annual inspection fee Y.
What are those again?
That's what we're here to talk about.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
So the annual, occupancy, the general one is the $75. So that is the homeowner getting their house inspected. $75 to put that on.
Yearly.
Well,
Point of sale.
point of sale.
Got it.
Yes.
But if
So we were thinking the same fee would make sense for this.
for having rental, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. You know, that's just for Scott to come in, inspect the house. He's gonna be doing the same procedure as he would if you're never normally buying something.
Great.
Whether you're just Airbnb a single room, you still have to inspect the entire house.
Okay.
right? So it's still gonna be time consuming. Let's have to go through this procedure. Right, so that's why we were thinking $75.
Okay.
For the occupancy inspection yearly requirement for that.
What's the application fee we do?
$45.
I was gonna say it's under 50, I knew that, okay, thank you.
And I believe in the binder, we had a draft.
Yeah.
If not, I can make sure we provide that. It's very similar to a lot of stuff. It's very similar to occupancy inspection and other stuff, but,
I know there was some conversation in the past about disclosing age of minors. I know Brooke, you had brought that up in the past.
Basically asked to modify.
Yeah.
The application, so that way individuals who are occupying the property under the age of 18 do not have to be disclosed. So,
Did you want just know names, or it could put like, there's two other individuals?
well, what I was asking is that we have a number allotment for the number of occupants, but we don't
Have their
break it
names.
down by name.
Got it.
That makes complete sense, yep.
So I believe that we would have to, Gavin, will we have to, put on the floor a modification to the resolution?
This is specifically for short-term rentals, or is this for all tenants? This is all for all tenant occupancy, right?
Correct.
Now,
I would have to take a look at the, what that chapter of the code says, but if it's part of the ordinance, if it says specifically every occupant, then we would need to modify that very simply, but unfortunately, since it's by ordinance, we have to go through the whole process of drafting it,
Yeah.
advertising and voting on it, so, we can probably have if there's consensus on council that you're all in favor of this, we can have a draft worked up for review at the regular meeting, you can vote to advertise it, and then we can adopt it at the next month if you want.
oh, good, thank you.
I have a question. When you stated that just the number of occupants have to go on, are you adding the age of all occupants or no?
So as it reads right now, and I would need to pull it up to refresh. But it asks for the name of every occupant, and I believe also the age. And so what I'm asking is that individuals, residents who are under the age of 18, we don't need their name and their age to be advertised. We can have a general, there's 5 occupants.
Yeah.
And then those individuals who are contractually obligated to maintain the property, who are 18 and over, who have signed the lease, identify who those individuals are. for, privacy purposes, and I just, let's keep it based on a legality, who can enforce the contract, and those would be the individual.
That's understandable, because I'm just thinking of, some places, specifically housing authority. They state that all names of the individuals are on there.
Even under.
Even underage, they want every name, and so we would just be putting the names of those responsible.
Yeah.
And the,
And then say there's 2 kids, there's 2 other people there, it doesn't matter, yeah, or whatever,
under the ages of under, yes, those under 18.
We would be saying that there are 5
total.
occupants in the home,
Okay,
and the adults are identified as Jane Doe, whatever, Jane Doe, whatever, and then this is their age, that information. So if we have to respond to, the property for some kind of emergency, the safety officials know that there are a total of 5 occupants in the home, 2 adults, we can assume because they're not identified on the registration.
minors, even minors.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So the only thing that, and Michelle pointed this out, but it's a good point. We're talking about short-term rentals, right? We're talking about people there for the weekend or a night. I think we're talking about 2 different words.
We are.
So just.
It just brought up the conversation that has been brought up in the past, and I wanted to bring that forward, because it's part of this application too.
So
Sure,
we're
sure.
talking about the tenant occupancy.
We're talking about the tenant registration ordinance,
Yeah.
but it's not, the short-term rental is a separate.
It's different, separate, yeah.
It's gonna be a separate application.
Yeah, yeah, but I know,
It's certainly, I think we're all on the same page, I just wanted to.
Yeah.
point out that this-
yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Because people online might be confused too, like, we're talking about 2 separate things.
So we will.
Sorry, that's my fault.
We will have an ordinance amending, section 24010 of the tenant registration ordinance we talked about, talks about all the information we take down to include the number of residents, but not identify those under 18.
So in regards to short-term rentals, the discussion is, since they are gonna be here just for a little bit, is that important to know that there are children in the home and their ages and their names?
I don't think that's a council question.
That's why I'm asking.
But I'm thinking from an administrative point of view, that's gonna be very burdensome if we make if we make them register every single tenant that's coming through.
Is not that a problem with the city not knowing the age of those that are going in for these short terms, because the weekend, we can make sure it's not an 18-year-old and a 20-year-old. That's there just for the weekend.
Well, the short-term rental process, if they're using a third party, there is one process that they have to go to verify their age, to ensure they meet the guidelines. And then depending on, that answers the age question. I think as long as they are following the guidelines of the third party, site that they're using to list their property, or following the guidelines of registering with the borough to let us know that they are going to be offering their property for short-term rental. I don't feel like we need to get in the weeds of how many people are staying this weekend and what are the ages. That might be, I think that's too much, to require of the homeowner, and too much for us to put on the borough employees to manage.
Now that I have pulled out the short-term rental ordinance, I have forgotten what the whole process was, but you can only operate a short-term rental in the borough of Churchill after you obtain conditional use approval from this council. So no one should be operating a short-term rental without filing an application, having a public hearing where we bring in a stenographer, allow those, you'll provide certain notice, including posting the property, and then you folks make a decision to make sure they meet all the criteria of the ordinance. After they issue that approval, they can then start operating.
Just to note that we don't have any applications that have come through for short-term rental in our borough.
Yeah, correct.
Yet.
So anyone who's,
I know.
anyone
Well,
who's,
we can't-
anyone who's operated one after April 10th of 2023 should have obtained zoning approval from this council for an operator.
Correct.
And to your point, Gavin, it says that, The applicant shall provide the name, address, and phone number, and other requested information of a contact person to ensure that a representative of the short-term rental can be contacted at all times in case of emergency. They're responsible for retaining all rental records and must be present at and must be able to present them at the time of request by the borough. So I feel like, we're covered. I think just adopting the fees and making sure that we provide some meats or legs to this, resolution is important. I don't think that we need to require additional documentation.
Any other comments?
I have one more. So
Yeah.
now that we know the application includes the conditional use hearing, I think that fee should be the same as whatever we charge for other conditional uses, as opposed to, and then we talked about $45. We would cover advertising, half the stenographer fee. So whatever we're charging for other conditional uses, and we should charge for this application.
Do we know what the fees are?
We should be able to, I can look it up and let everyone know.
I just wanna say, and then I'm really quick, that I would like for the borough to support this process and not make it cumbersome
Yeah.
for individuals who want to, bring in additional revenue into the homes, or they're gonna be away for some time and they're feeling like, they want somebody to be in their property to be able to maintain it, turn the lights on, make sure the water's running correctly, etc. So if we can figure out a way to not make the fees too high or, too cumbersome, I think that it would be advantageous for us.
So the conditional use fee right now is listed at $1,000 for the actual cost,
Whoa.
or the actual cost of the area.
No.
But I will tell you, we have to run 2 legal ads. So what's a legal ad?
$500.
Whoa.
So we're at $400 to $800 just for legal ads. The stenographer appearance fee is probably $150, which we apply half to. So, the sort of downside to the conditional use process, it got, number one, it puts council on notice of everyone that comes in. And gives public process and transparency and put the neighbors on notice.
Absolutely.
But as far as, cumbersomeness, is that a word?
I don't know, are you telling me?
It can be, and, there's also, if it's opposed, there can be appeals, there's legal work that needs to be done in connect. If it's not opposed and they come in, these folks come in and they sort of check all the boxes in the ordinance and you're satisfied, it's essentially, and no one, but again, it's not opposed, it's just a decision letter telling them, yes, you can, any conditions you would want to put on it. If it gets opposed, it becomes potentially more expensive. But bottom line, as far as the fee, it should cover the administrative overhead and the actual out-of-pocket costs. So we ask for $1,000 and then refund anything that's over there, because it says we're actual costs. That's probably the right way to do it, just to make sure we're covered on out-of-pocket. And these people are the ones making money off the property. It seems like a lot of money, but honestly, a lot of it, advertising is so expensive right now in the newspaper that it's just, there's just no way around it.
Even with advertising costs, it could be up to $500. It is just for one.
Is that a one-time fee or is that?
The conditionally used would be part of that, that would be the application fee essentially.
It's a one-time, not yearly.
And then the annual inspections, it's gonna be $5. Thank you.
So you would make that $45 or whatever that is gonna be part of that conditional part of that fee as well?
I think we changed the 45 to 1,000 or actual.
Take it, yeah.
So we'll see what the actual number is. I'm curious to see, if Michelle, you can provide us with a ballpark number of that and more rough estimate. Yeah. Thank you.
So, Councilmember Castiglia, I know that you are just reappointed, but please correct me if I'm wrong, but did you, propose that we adopt the short-term rental application process in the ordinance? Is that something that you propose?
All
All right. Any other discussion? Okay. All right, active transportation plan. Welcome back.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Burkle from Pashick MTR. We've been working on the borough's active transportation plan for about 12 months now. And we are in the final stage and we want to present the final plan to you and answer any questions you may have. Active transportation is any human powered way of getting around outside of getting in motorized vehicles. So it could be walking, rolling, biking, transit use, what have you. We are all active transportation users. We walk out of our house and no matter where we go, we're walking in our initial effort. And so this plan is being studied or being funded by the Pennsylvania Department of Health through the PA Walk program, and with a grant from the Redevelopment Authority of Allegheny County through their active Allegheny plan. And so towards that end, it's really about making Churchill Borough more livable for its residents. Looking at increasing access to economic opportunities, promoting physical activity, enhancing health, creating better community ties. And so really our goal was to take a look at the current infrastructure in Churchill Borough and make recommendations, and they will be phased in incrementally in steps over time. This doesn't happen overnight, but looking at how can we improve walking, bicycling, transit accessibility, for those with disabilities as well. And so I'm going to go through a lot. Michelle said I have 10 minutes, so I'm going to try to present a year's worth of work in 10 minutes. But it's really our goal is to set you up to be able to apply for funding for implementation that can follow this planning effort. There's funding available through the county, through Active Allegheny, through the gaming revenue program they have. There's funding through a number of departments in the state, the DCNR, the Community Economic Development Department, PennDOT as another one. And then there are federal opportunities that are out there to fund this through the Federal Transportation Program. And so we want to set you up and put Churchill's best foot forward to be able to access the funding for implementation. It's a small community. There's not a lot of local money available. And so how can we maximize what's out there to help us implement the plan? Next slide, please. Next slide. That was how does it help the borough? Go to the next slide, please, Ashley. So our vision is, and we worked with the steering committee, a study committee that was appointed by Borough Council for this. We had public engagement sessions and we received public input early on through a community survey, and then towards the end of the plan. And the vision statement that was adopted or that was recommended is Churchill Borough values the well-being and quality of life of its residents and therefore provides opportunities to expand a safe and accessible network of active transportation routes for recreation and to reach enjoy destinations. So in a simple vision statement, this is a statement that was developed by the committee through the process. In terms of the vision, and it's hard to see there, I have a larger map over here, but we're really looking at about 20 projects or about 40 projects that are infrastructure related in making improvements throughout the borough. And so what has been identified as being important is really connecting to the Churchill Valley Greenway, connecting residents from the west to the east and the center part, connecting people from the east over to the western part of the community, and then connecting with the neighbors. And so we looked at really a primary route, which is a route that is being proposed that would include Beulah Church Road, Lewin Lane, Greensburg Pike, up to William Penn Highway to Beulah Church, and then that would get us a connection to the Greenway. Then looking at connections through the neighborhoods, Thornberry, Homer, and then Churchill Road, making those connections. Those seem to be areas where traffic is higher, where speeds are higher, where it's not very safe to go out and walk in your residential neighborhood today. And so looking at opportunities that we can calm traffic and make it safer to walk, bike, and access transit stops that are along the way. Next slide, please. So our recommendations are really, we have the 40 physical recommendations, but we have what we refer to as the 6 E's of active transportation. So that's evaluation and planning is the first step. What do we need to have in place to facilitate this process? So we talk about complete streets, traffic calming, local land use ordinances that facilitate active transportation. And I know for involvement, on the Westinghouse project, looking at making sure that there's a walkable component associated with that when that site is redeveloped. So that's the first E. The next slide, please. Encouragement. How do we encourage people to make this mode shift? Generation, I'm of the generation where you get in the car and you drive. There are many generations like us. The suburbs of the city often were developed around, they're car centric. And so how can we make it more walkable to the residents? And we're finding that that is becoming a quality of life issue that is important for younger folks that are moving into our communities, and they're really looking at how can I do my day-to-day activities without having to get into a car? Can I get to my neighbors without having to get into my car? Can I get to the doctor's office? Can I get to the grocery store? And so how do we make improvements within the borough to facilitate that type of activity and those types of connections? Equity, making it safe, healthy, affordable, and accessible, and convenient transportation options that are available to everybody. And so we want to make sure that we're connecting to the senior centers, senior communities that are within the borough, making sure that they have access to the active transportation network that is being established. Next slide, please. Education. Education comes in many different forms. It's building awareness that, how do you walk? If I have a child that wants to walk to school, what do I need to know from a safety perspective to be able to walk with my child to their school? How do I bike? If I'm a motorist, how do I travel with bicycles that may be using the shoulder of the road or riding in the lane? And so it's all about providing the education of the residents of the community so they can begin to understand what they need to know to interact in a safe manner with the active component of a community. And so in this plan, we have a number of resources, a number of web links to resources that are out there to help promote the education of active transportation. Enforcement. How do we, enforce active transportation throughout the community? Whether it's enforcing motor vehicle code. I like to think of it as more passive enforcement, speed, radar signs, placed in areas where we know traffic is exceeding the speed limit, putting up that marker that flashes and says you're, traveling 45 in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. Those are effective methods in reducing the speed of vehicles through communities. The number one concern when it comes to active transportation is that speed kills. And so if a vehicle is going 25 miles an hour or less, there's a 1 in 10 chance that they would be fatally injured. If the vehicle is traveling 45 miles an hour, then there's an 8 out of 10 chance that the person would be fatally injured. So that's a statistic that we really live by and we really promote, is that we're not trying to slow traffic down or make it more difficult to get from point A to point B in the community. But we're looking at making the transportation network safe for all users in the community. And so how can we accommodate that? So when we talk about traffic calming, we recommend a traffic calming policy. There are a number of traffic calming mechanisms that are available to help slow down traffic. It really depends on the area that we're looking at. If we're looking at a small neighborhood, we can talk about speed humps or maybe traffic circles. If we're talking about the larger highway network, we're talking about bump outs, we're talking about the design of intersections and what have you. So those are all important components of active transportation in the community. Next slide, please. And then last, engineering, that's obviously the infrastructure part. Those are our 40 recommendations for improvements along the roads and streets within Churchill Borough. From extending the sidewalk network along Buell Road, looking at the potential road diet for Greensburg Pike, Buell Road, upper portion of Buell Road was recently resurfaced by PennDOT. And as we were going through this process, they contacted the borough and said, we're going to be restriping that. And is there something that you would like us to do? Is there anything we can do there to help facilitate active transportation within Churchill Borough? And so between our firm and Denny's firm, we came back with some recommendations on what improvements we think would be appropriate to make there. And PennDOT, actually, much to my surprise, okay. So, and so we're going to do some traffic calming, do some lane reduction there, primarily by entrance into Westinghouse. I believe that's Helen Drive turning in there. So that's really important component. But the borough is in talks, if you're aware, with potential funders for looking at the next step of a potential road diet for Greensburg Pike. So we're talking with the county, the Southwestern Pennsylvania Commission, and the adjacent municipalities that are also along Greensburg Pike about the possibility of doing a study. It's not a one size fits all. We don't know that lanes will be reduced there, but traffic volumes say that there doesn't need to be 4 lanes of traffic there. And so taking that information, doing traffic counts, traffic studies, looking for land use, and then really the borough setting its priorities in terms of what we want. Do we want separated shared use path that runs parallel to the road? Do we want sidewalks with bike lanes on, on the shoulder of the road? There are several different options that can be considered for Greensburg Pike. And so that's an important aspect to take a look at as well. This project moves forward in advances. Next slide, please. So this gets to, I'll just, hit the highlights. Buell Road sidewalk. We're really talking about constructing a sidewalk along the northwest quadrant between William Penn Highway and McCready Road to connect the main ramps and crossings. The whole corridor from the northern end of Buell Road, really to Beulah Church to the Greenway. There's a bus stop. Which direction am I? Right over there.
Yep.
That's completely disconnected and very difficult to get to if you need to get trained. And so we're recommending that there be a connection, a sidewalk connection that allows you to connect from there over to the park and ride, over to the church, and then over into the Greenway property. So again, that's really important. There are a number of steps that need to be taken in order to do that. Permission of the church, working with all the owners of the roadways. As part of that, we're working with PennDOT, we're working with the county, and then of course you have the municipal roads. Intersections improvements, I think the borough just applied for a grant for
along Bureau Road and Churchill, Buell, and then Buell Grady, and then also included in the school with Brown and cross street was in Wilkins.
Yeah. So looking at traffic signal improvements, because a lot of this can't be done without making accommodations at the intersections to provide enough time to be able to navigate the intersection if you're a pedestrian there. So Again, this is all kind of moving forward in terms of, what the borough's been thinking and currently thinking and advancing those recommendations as we go forward. We talked about, so there are sidewalk and pedestrian projects, there are intersection enhancement projects, there are potential bicycle projects, there are transit stopping projects, and then other items such as McCready Road. McCready Road is really, people come off of there and think they're still on the highway. And so, traffic calming is an issue there. But lighting is very poor there. So because lighting is poor, if somebody is walking or biking along McCready Road, that's a very dangerous situation because the lighting level there is, it's not well lit. And so that's something to look at. This plan is in place. And then traffic calming projects. I talked about the different types of traffic calming, and we recommend 18 locations where traffic calming should be considered, but recognizing that there's a cost, there's an expense associated with all these recommendations. We really think that there should be a traffic calming policy that sets the criteria for traffic calming within the neighborhood areas. And so meaning that if residents of that neighborhood come and petition borough council and say, listen, there's a speeding problem along, a certain road, we'd like you to consider some traffic calming measures in there. And then you can prioritize, if you get 3 or 4 requests from different neighborhoods, you can prioritize those and then make informed decisions off of that. And again, we have thoughts and ideas about what type of traffic calming methods might work in a particular location, but really that should be left up to, final decision through engineering, and really understanding what the issue is in the neighborhood and what solution is going to work best in that particular neighborhood. So that's the traffic calming policies. So then the next item is complete streets. It's really important in establishing Churchill and saying we want to promote active transportation and complete streets are important to us. And so complete streets is the philosophy of making streets accessible for everyone, not just cars, not just trucks, not just for bicycles, not just for walkers, but for everybody that uses the transportation network. And so as part of Active Allegheny and the county's plan, they are encouraging municipalities to adopt a complete streets resolution and ordinance. So we have a sample that is in the study, and Michelle has this, and we hope that the borough will consider this. And what it says is that complete streets are streets designed and operated to enable safe use and support mobility for all users, people of all ages and abilities, regardless of their mode of travel, whether it's drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, or public transportation riders. And so there are principles of complete streets that say that if a street is improved in Churchill, we ought to be thinking about all modes of travel along it, just not one particular mode. And then as we go through implementation, as projects are being considered along your streets and along your roads within Churchill Borough, how can we make it more complete to serve the residents of the borough? And so working with the borough engineer, considering costs associated with complete streets, considering funding sources that are out there to help with the implementation of complete streets. And then there's criteria that says that there can be exceptions to the policy. We can't make every road in Churchill Borough a complete street. We provide exceptions and criteria for that. So if the cost is excessively disproportionate to the need, if there's a documented absence of current and future need, but if you choose that as the reason to not do a complete streets project, you need to provide due diligence about looking at future needs. Just because you don't see people walking or crossing intersections in certain areas There probably are people out there that would like to do that, but don't feel safe doing it because of the current configuration of the intersection. So you really need to, talk to residents of the community about those particular areas that you're considering before we say, no, it's not important here. Accommodation is not practically feasible because of severe topographic constraints or significant adverse impacts to natural environment. So if we're in a confined corridor and there are steep slopes and it makes it very difficult, then we might not be able to do it there. And then performing routine maintenance. If you're just doing some line striping, putting in some new crosswalks, or doing, repaving a residential street, it's just a maintenance project. You can do the maintenance projects and continue. We're talking about street reconstruction and whether you're expanding the street or what you might be doing along it. So with that, then the resolution says that the borough the manager and the public works supervisor will identify current potential sources of funding. The Borough of Churchill and council will work with the administration, public works, the engineer, emergency service providers, the planning commission, park and recreation advisory board, the Woodland Hills School District, Department of Transportation, Allegheny County Economic Development, Allegheny County Public Works, Health Department of Pittsburgh, in making these kinds of decisions about complete streets. And then we have metrics by which we'd like the Borough of Churchill to gauge how well the complete streets are being implemented. So linear feet of new sidewalk, increase in number of new crosswalks, ADA compliant curb ramps, pedestrian signal heads, flashing signals, sign, other relevant safety improvements, increasing in the number of miles of shared roads, bicycle lanes, or other relevant bike facilities, decrease in the number of reported pedestrian and bicycle related crashes, increase in the number of traffic calming features throughout the community. And there are several others, elimination of access driveways onto arterial roads, grants secured to fund incorporating complete street principles. And then we have the last section is project selection criteria, developing a matrix, and then ranking areas from 1 to 5, 1 being poor to 5 being excellent, and then using that to help prioritize again that decision-making process for where grants and funding is going to be focused to implement complete streets. And then we have a list of best practices that are out there. They're all national best practices that are available online for implementing complete streets. So with that, what questions you have for me?
I have a comment, the slides that were provided to us on page 23. There's a link of current funding sources.
Yeah.
Which I think is very helpful, so thank you. I think, this is a great plan that can help us move forward and we can go after these funding sources that is so important to our borough, so thank you. I think this is very, very, very thorough.
And
I appreciate that.
Ann O'Gork at the Allegheny County Redevelopment Authority says, don't forget about the county. Everybody forgets.
Yes.
The county has funding available
Yeah.
for implementation of active transportation recommendations.
Yeah. Thank you. I didn't know there was any other.
No, I think it's incredibly thorough. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Actually, I
everybody,
have one question.
Yeah.
Would any of this change, right now the Westinghouse is just there and it could change any moment or still sit there forever. If somebody would eventually move in there, does this change the plan at all, or is it still?
No, the plan is to improve pedestrian
yeah, no matter what.
Right.
and active transportation access to around the Westinghouse site. And again, I think it's really has been the borough's vision to not have a large traffic generator there like
Right.
Amazon, that would provide a lot of that activity. And so The ordinance actually was rewritten to put more of an emphasis on the type of development the borough would like to see happen on the property, which is very consistent with this. There was a developer that was interested and has shown some interest and, you know, during those conversations, the borough had indicated to them that complete streets was an important consideration that they needed to take seriously when they were, whatever they might be doing on the site. So that's very important.
Thank you.
Question,
Thank you.
well.
Question, will this action plan go up on, the church, on the website?
Yes, that's the intent.
Yeah, thank you. It is very small. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We will say that John and his he made sure that they engaged the citizens and made sure that they got their feedback, and they tried to do that through several ways. There was surveys, and we did the newsletter. So, I feel like we had a good turnout, we had citizen engagement. I agree. And there was a lot of like, you know, walking availability. We have a big bicycling community too. So it was just nice to hear, and we had two public meetings here as well. We made a good turnout there. And it's just nice to see like people wanting to have different types of mobility and walking around. People just don't want to drive all the time.
Yep, right.
They want to have different availability in their community to walk and bicycle, and even if they're just going to the bus.
Well, that's half the problem, they're not gonna feel safe walking the bus. So
Yeah.
from Blackridge,
Right.
which is 50 feet,
Right.
who wants to walk up Yellow Road on that turn? I don't.
No,
No.
I don't wanna drive on.
No, I don't want to drive up, Turk doesn't even want to be there, nobody wants to be there, so, I mean, so, yeah. I know a ton of people would love to take the bus, but they actually drive up 15 feet to park there.
The park and ride.
Right, but they'd rather walk, so.
It's dangerous.
It's so dangerous.
So dangerous.
So that's a community 600 house, so, I mean, we have to think of that, and that is, I mean, you can ask Ralph how many times that gargoyle hit his ear.
Yeah.
We have an over under on that one, but,
Yeah.
so it's just dangerous, and it's so nice to see that we're going forward and thinking ahead and truly making this, instead of a small community that's randomly divided, the community wants to connect us. Great, so thank you.
Yeah, and talking to our adjacent communities, and we did that as part of the process
Yeah.
as well.
Right.
That's really important because the road doesn't stop at the municipal boundary line, it continues into the neighboring communities.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have one good question. If, Churchill randomly found $1 million tomorrow, where would you, top 2 or 3 priorities you'd say, take the bite of the apple here and get started?
Well, definitely the bus stop and the connection to Beulah Church, the park and ride, to the Greenway would be one. I'd look at Greensburg Pike, given you have the school located on Greensburg Pike. You can't, you have to go a great distance to cross Greensburg Pike to get to the other side of the school, and it shouldn't be that way. There should be more connections across Greensburg Pike to allow people to cross. And so Greensburg Pike might be
Thank you. Well, safely.
across safety.
Cross safety.
Exactly. All right.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Michelle, for noting the, public and residents were part of this process. So their voice are heard. We'll move on to our next thing. We're still under infrastructure. Paving of McCready Road.
Yeah, for the paving project, I did mention at last week's meeting, the contractor is preparing to start that work. They're working on evaluating a potential detour plan there for while the work is being completed. The contractor does hope for all that work to be completed within the month. I did have just a couple other quick items.
Yep.
To just one item that kind of plays off what John just said regarding a couple of grants that are coming out here soon. LSA grant, we applied last year around this time for Greensburg Pike, specifically for the school zone at Greensburg Pike, which could include some additional crossing. That is expected to be announced September 16th or sometime in the middle of September here. So, again, hopefully we were successful in that grant. Also, the next round of LSA actually just began starting September 1st. So it's open from September 1st through November 30th. I know we've talked through infrastructure and a number of other items, other potential projects to consider applying for that again. And lastly, small water and sewer, the H2O grants. Been a few years since they've done that. It does sound like they're going to re-release that. That would be expected sometime October through the end of the year. Those grants, I would talk about the stormwater projects that the municipality has waiting to be completed, and those could be considered for that grant later on.
Great,
Thank you. All right, moving on to communications.
Our deadline for our newsletter is coming up. Michelle, what is the date of that? Isn't that this week?
So we did pass the deadline,
Okay.
but many council members, so I pushed it off a little bit.
Okay,
So I'll be reaching out to get some information from both of you, so I could add you to the newsletter as like a welcome.
okay,
Once I get that, then I will submit the newsletter.
okay.
Hopefully we can get it out for Halloween.
Yeah.
We have to get it out. We
We
have simply have to.
Well, and I'd like to mention this year on Halloween Day, if you're driving by and you want to stop in at Borough, we will have some treats, some candy or whatever, and maybe some people will be in costume, maybe some of the council people will stop by in their costume. But we're gonna try to make it a festive Halloween, and also don't forget that Halloween is on October 31st every year from 6 to 8. But yes, but please, stop by the Borough and get some candy or who knows, whatever else will come up with. You may see the borough manager, assistant borough manager in some interesting costumes. So you're really trying to Ralph.
Really?
I really trying to Ralph. I tried to talk Ralph. I'll work on it. Yes.
Oh, we shall do matching costumes in the office. I love it.
I'll wait till the fire alarm goes off and get Ralph in his firefighter costume.
For, Actually not, it was a long ride. I like the Wizard of Oz, yeah.
I do like that too. Thank you. Okay, well,
I think that's all I have for communication.
okay, climate action.
Climate action, right here, I did send this to the council about a week ago. And this is our draft of our 5-year local climate action plan that our climate action committee has worked diligently with Connect, which is the nonprofit that we've spoken about Connect many times. Connects municipalities together so we can work together and, you know, maybe get grants. We have a better chance of getting a grant, for example, if we all do it together, that type of thing. But we've worked with them to, you know, we've implemented some things to help our community, such as the EV stations. You know, we got a free grant, didn't cost taxpayers a penny, and didn't cost the borough a penny. It was kind of just thrown at us, which is great. Now, right now, we know there aren't that many people with electric cars, but 10 years from now, there will be a lot more, and we will already be ahead of the game.
Well, not just that, we're at a crossroads right here. There's a lot of people traveling.
Yeah, that's true.
A lot of people with
Not just us.
EVs
Right,
traveling
So-
that can stop by and charge their car. And the reason why I know that is
It's on the app.
it's on the app. So if you have an EV, there's things that you can plan your route
Sure,
of EVs nearby, and this
Mhm.
does pop up.
right,
So that people can charge if they're on 376, which there's a lot.
right.
There's
And
a lot of people traveling through here.
we're helping our neighbors. I mean, our municipality neighbors, you know, with having that there.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's a good thing. So we've already implemented some things, but now we want to take it to the next step and say, okay, this is what we've done. Now we can move on to, you know, other things. So, you know, I would love everybody's feedback. I went through it a million times. I think it's great. I couldn't see anything I would change, but then again, I helped put it together. So I welcome.
Fresh eyes.
Fresh eyes, yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes. And then we will post it once it's
Final.
final. Right now, it's not final, but that's where we are with climate action right now.
I mean, I could also say the Deer Committee falls under climate action. And, I don't know, Greg, you want to report anything about the Deer Committee, but we did, and maybe we talked about this before, but we did have a town meeting, which unfortunately was a very small group of people that showed up as much as we promoted it, but
How many people shut up?
what?
11, I think, 11 or 12.
Yeah, I was very disappointed.
Yeah, I was, I thought for sure that we were gonna get much
Right.
better.
Well, maybe it's not as big of a deal as we thought, but
It's just one of those things that it's just so divisive, like the room might as well just be
Yeah.
kill, not kill.
Right.
You know, and there's like no one in the middle that's like, well, maybe we could, no, it's either like kill them all or don't touch them.
Yeah.
how dare you don't have.
Yeah, so it's,
And conclusion that, our three experts, including Greg, came up with, there are still people who are gonna be very upset.
Yeah.
But,
well, that was the thing that like blew my mind the most about the meeting was we were there just to gather information. We barely spoke. We let the people talk and we just kind of listened and then, if they had questions or anything, we kind of said, hey, well, you could do this, you could do that. And it was like, at one point, the guy was like, you all need to be removed. This is ridiculous. And we're like, we're not even saying we're for or against anything.
Right.
We're just sitting here listening to you.
and you were giving back,
Yeah.
the three of them.
And it was
Right.
just like, oh.
Yeah,
man.
it's tough, and I understand everybody's passionate about it, but,
Yeah.
we're still gonna continue. I don't know
Yes.
what our next step's going to
Right, thank
be. Yeah, we're definitely, this wasn't like one and done and whatever. Greg has been giving Ashley the weekly.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
the Whitetail Wednesdays, yeah.
Whitetail Wednesdays, right?
And then, well, I believe the next step will be, we'll get something formal together, a report, at another meeting and kind of just the three of us and Deb and Diane just kind of talk and say,
I mean, it's ad hoc and maybe Diane's gonna be on it.
oh, okay. I didn't know if she was sticking around on it. Yeah, I didn't know if she was sticking around on it. Yeah.
Request for new people to come on and allow them to come on without any written, with their residents that want to be a part of the Deer Committee to see what they're.
I mean, that's always
Yeah.
Just
possible.
open the door.
Yeah.
Open the
Yeah,
door.
definitely.
That's always
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah, because it's, at the last, there was one lady, she was very good. She asked a lot of very good questions and she spoke at the very end. yeah.
Okay, I will.
Open the
Yeah.
door again, that would be great, to open that door again and see what you get.
Yeah,
Meeting was recorded, so it's online.
Yes,
yeah,
thank you, Mayor. Yes, we did record the meeting, so anybody who was unaware of it or couldn't make it, that's why we wanted to do that. So it's online. What is it on our YouTube page? I
Yes.
believe?
Yeah.
So you can just go, pardon?
And Facebook.
Oh, and Facebook, right. So you can find our Facebook page or go to, Google or YouTube and it's there. And I think the meeting was about an hour and a half.
yeah.
So,
When is the next meeting? You have a date yet?
we don't have it.
We haven't set a date yet. This is just gonna be like a closed meeting. We're kind of just gonna compile all of our notes together and put a recommendation into council,
Right.
like what we think is the best direction to take
Right,
in
Okay.
dealing with
I'm
deer.
willing to look at that.
yeah. So, the deer ad hoc does, I guess, fall into climate action as well as the tree committee, which Andrea is kind of the liaison. And I don't know if you have anything to report on that.
Ken Ball, he's amazing.
He is amazing, Ken, we love
That
Ken.
is one of the updates.
Mhm.
Ken does a great job. As we go into fall, there will be some recommendations that we're gonna put out, just to keep. If you see a sick tree or, what things to do, because as fall
Right.
comes, you start looking, you're like,
Mhm.
oh, are you? You know? So there'll be more recommendations, and like I said, Ken does such an amazing job, and the entire committee does a great job. But, we're kind of in that weird in-between period right now, so
I
there'll be
think,
more to
I
come.
think Michelle, I don't know if you could check this out, not now, but I think there may be an open seat on the tree committee.
I don't know, what,
I don't know.
I can double check, but I do believe there was.
I think there was
Okay.
one, but I just want to make sure before I say
Okay.
yes.
And like the terms and.
Yeah.
Cause I know they're staggered too, so.
Yeah,
Looking at that.
I apologize, I don't know that answer.
I mean, if there's anybody out there who's really interested in trees and our environment, whatever, and wants to contact us. I mean, we have to double check 100%, but I'm pretty sure that there is things, right? And also the tree committee is in the process of making, you probably see this with Forest Hills where it says a tree community. We have, there are a lot of requirements. We've now hit every requirement apparently, so they're in the process of making us a tree community. So
That's awesome.
that's a good thing too.
You know, a little sign, adds a designation, is really nice.
Right.
That's awesome.
I'm done.
Thank you. Nothing for education in school or place thing. Mr. Mayor.
Well, yeah, I have a couple things. First of all, congratulations to Matt and Greg on the board. A great addition to the council. The other thing I wanted to mention was the climate action that draft that was put up. I've gone through it several times. Really an excellent program you have put together. And one of the things with that, said litter management. And since I'm associated with the Garden Club does meet once a month. And picks up litter throughout the streets. We're always looking for people to join us, come out for, we meet here at 9 o'clock in the morning. We're out for an hour, 2 hours at top, and pick up as much litter as we can. Last month, we had 12 bags.
Wow.
I'm not talking little waste can bags, big bags of litter. Four pallets down on McCready Road, and several sandbags. Someone just tosses out of the trash on the sidewalk. So, and everybody says, I don't litter. Somebody's litter. I don't litter. But I think the people that come through, the parkways, when you get on the end of the parkway, as soon as they're getting on there, they're tossing it out the window. On the entrance to the parkway over here off of William Penn, someone now is dumping their grass and yard clippings along the edge of the road.
Which road?
What road is that?
Off of William Penn Highway here, you're gonna get on 376 on in the town.
Oh, they're traffic slow, and then they just open the bag and dump
They
them back.
stopped, a couple years ago, they were doing the same thing. Stopping the car, throwing out those grass clippings on the concrete and then driving away. I mean, it's something that they did. I mean, I can't
makes
figure
my
out why
blood
you
boil.
do that. But anyway, if we could get a little camera, I've had my camera set up. Every car that goes by, it's gonna take a picture. When you look at it, you're gonna have like 90,000 pictures. And somewhere you gotta situate that thing so where you can catch that, because it's not just one time. They're
No,
repeatedly doing this dumping. I don't know that it's the neighbor that lives on the other side of our main. You can see there's an entrance to there. I don't know where it's coming. I don't know when you're here. At any time.
Coming from somewhere.
But anyway, but that's a concern, the litter on those entrances and exits. So like I said, if anybody wanna come out, I mean, we're well seasoned, we've been doing it. Ooh, past 5 years.
That say, if you litter, $500 sign, we have cameras.
Even if we don't.
Well, I think we could use a few more signs. I'm not sure how effective signs are.
Cameras monitoring litterers, you will be fined, I don't know.
Security watching. Yeah, Big Brother's watching, I don't know how to.
We have bags, we have, safety vests, we have cones, we have signs that say litter cruising ahead. So it's all there. I know people work, I get that, because we do it 9 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
on a Wednesday, so people are working. So, I mean, it can always be changed to accommodate people, if you wanted to do a weekend.
Weekend, yeah.
I was gonna say, I can help you.
I can do it
I
again.
can't do.
So,
Yeah.
Mayor, I have a question. The, next cleanup is when?
It's the third Wednesday of every month.
Okay. And you said 9 AM and meet here at the borough.
We meet here at 12.
So the next is September 18th.
It's my wife's birthday, and I'm sure she'll let me come. But she does come.
No, she
Oh,
always.
yeah, I got a birthday today too, I got.
September 15th, 9 AM.
And then my next question is, if someone is running a little bit behind and they're not able to get to 9 AM, is there a particular area that you will be in?
We always start up here on the entrance into the parkway, that's the #1 spot, and from there we go down to, 79A. That's the exit on Greensburg Pike,
Right, yeah.
and then usually we'll head over to, Holland Road exits,
Mhm.
and Grady Road will be another one.
Okay,
So kind of in that order.
okay.
Thank you.
But like I say, and the number one thing too, is we're out there, is we're always worried about safety.
Yes.
Cause these cars, we got big signs that says road crew ahead, but they still, some people just come flying past. So even if you had someone out there with a flag saying, slow down, slow down,
Yeah.
that would,
That'd be-
but we're all a lot of senior citizens out.
Not you, Paul.
Not me,
Yeah.
you know, it gets under your skin, you know.
So
When I drive on those entrances and exits, I'm looking, is it still clean?
Yes.
You know, looks like I'm checking.
Yeah.
you said you even pick up diapers and like.
Oh, there's
Diapers up there.
Yeah,
Like what?
I'm still looking for that bag of money.
Let me know when you find it.
Did find a half a $5 bill.
Oh, geez.
I did want to mention again about Bull Park, and I did talk to Michelle about this. I was down there the other day and I did get firsthand view of what they're doing down there with stream restoration. And it's a big project they're working on down there. Actually, have kind of widened it, put this kind of burlap rope all over the side, planted some trees down there. And I know it's a shot in the dark and there's not a lot of people are interested in Bullock Park, but I kind of think it's a gem. You know, it's something we kind of, years ago, it was viable. People
Yeah.
used it.
Yeah.
And it just went kind of offline. Yeah, the weeds have overgrown. Just this past spring, Renee Doley was down there with those kids from Wilkins.
Yep.
They were down there walking through the woods, taking pictures and, you know, drawing things. They had a great time.
Oh, we got pictures of that, I remember that.
It's a resource that we have,
Mhm.
but, you know, I talked to Michelle, it's a money thing too.
Yeah.
It can't be done for free.
I think that's also another opportunity that we can present after the remediation is being done. Volunteer efforts, I mean, I take care of my park for free, and there's a bunch of people who would love to make that viable again, because you can go right into the Allegheny Green Space, Matt and I did it. And he had me like climbing across a log. It was fun. You tell he was an Eagle Scout, but like, we can make it without a ton of, just some volunteers, we can
Right.
make it
Right.
usable and nice again, you know?
There's a nice pavilion.
The first one's really nice.
Yeah, the first one's really
Yeah.
nice. It is.
Just needs like a sickle and.
Need some love.
That's what I say, I mean,
Some TLC.
I went down there this past winter and it was a snowy day, and I'm thinking, "Man, who comes down here?" There were so many tracks running through that area. There were a lot of people there, I'm the only one down here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people that
Right.
walk their dogs, but they just walk through themselves.
Right.
So that's just my thing about Wolf Park.
Okay.
And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Any council and staff comment?
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Oh, do you wanna go first?
No, move right in.
We last week spoke of, Councilwoman Grove on making sure that the council gets incidents when there's, you know, something going on in the borough, making sure that the council needs to know.
Yes.
When there's a police issue, that was great, and it helped us know what's going on. And so with that concern, I would also, because of our council staff, that we do something when we have residents that, are not pleased with council staff or things that are going on in the borough. And they become agitated to the point of, not violence, but different type of language. We now live in a society where we have to be careful of our staff that's here. Michelle and Ashley and all those, around the note that are in the building, they do so much. They do the work. And I have to say, I commend you guys. You make us look good.
Yeah.
You kind of really do. And I want to say thank you, for what you do. You kind of make us look good. God keeps us in order. And so with that said, you know, he keeps us. And so with that being said, you know, some things that come to our attention as council members, we should not have to hear it secondhand. We should hear it when it happens. We know that we live in a society of people with mental concerns and mental illnesses. God would forbid that something would happen to one of our staff members and we know nothing until after it happens. So I would like to propose that some type of way we come up with a ledger, that if there's an incident with the resident, we're not perfect. My husband's a preacher, he's a pastor, and he's here, and when he got up to give a message a couple of weeks ago, I had to watch it on, YouTube, and he got up before the state, convocation, and he told them, he says, "You're not always right." He says, "I'm not always right." We're not always right, but in not always being right, there's a way to talk to people. And that should be, that should be something that we as council members maintain with one another and even residents with staff. So I would like to, I don't know how that would look, if we could come up with something that any incident that comes across that phone, that someone doesn't like something that was said, someone doesn't like an ordinance, someone doesn't like something that Franklin did, or, that if it revolves around anything that it is bad language, that we keep a log of it and we keep track of it.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think we can come up with something. It's just, I think it's helpful to know. We don't want to know, like you said, an incident happened. And then we're like, oh, well, this person popped off on a step 2 months ago or something like that. So I think it's good for us to know that information. So thank you. You're welcome. Any other comments?
No, I just would like to welcome our new members here.
Yes, welcome,
Matt and
welcome.
Greg, welcome. We look forward to working and serving with you, and, if there's anything that any of us can do to question, please ask. Because I will tell you, me person on it is really that I do to myself. And then. But we're here to help, and we look forward to your ideas and working with you.
Thank you so much. Meeting adjourned. Last, yeah.
Well, I think for these meetings that you're having, it's really impressive and everything. But there's a concern that I have for Churchill.
Yeah.
There's some houses in the community that, well, not that appealing